Welcome back to another tutorial video. In this video we'll be going over actually starting to create this particle emitter that we've created all these materials for. So we're going to start off by right clicking in our content browser and going to New Particle System. Go ahead and make sure, well, before we do that, go ahead and make sure you have the fire material selected, and then go to New Particle System, and this will auto-assign the material to our particle system when we create it. So I'm going to give the group of P systems dot fire, and our name is P underscore fire A. So we're going to hit OK. Now as you can see, we got a whole bunch of weirdness going on here. So what we need to do is come into our required properties, and our sub UV here, we need to change this to random blend, and then our sub UV indexes we want to assign 4 and 4. Now it knows we have a 4x4 sub UV index. So what we want to look at now is our initial size, and by default it has a minimum and maximum of 25 and 25. We're going to change our max to 30 all the way down the board. That way we have a little bit of variation in our particle size. Now we want to come in here and take a look at our color over life. And I think looking at a color over life, it's actually going to be fine. So what I'm going to do now is right click in here, come into location, and we're going to add a cylinder. Now you'll see that's doing some strange stuff here. That's because the cylinder is actually pretty big, and we just need to shrink this down quite a bit. I'm just going to bring this to a start radius of 5 and a start height of 5. I'm going to come down here and go ahead and turn off my draw mode. That's going to adjust that for us. And the next one we're going to want to do is we want to control the size of our particles. So we're going to come in here, come into size, and we're going to do size by life. And if we come in here and we look at our size by life, we notice we have these points in here. And what we want to do is adjust these properties just a little bit. The first one's in value when the particle's created is 0, and that's fine. And we've got 1, 1, and 1, so we're going to leave that the way it is. Our second one, however, we want to change it to a 0.35. Just like so. Now we're going to add one more point, and our new point, we want to change it to a value of 1. And so now, as it goes up, it's shrinking down and fading off. Now if you look closely at this, it looks alright, but you'll notice it's spawning the same image over and over. And that's because we need one final value, and that's the sub UV. So if we just add a sub image index, now it's spawning a whole bunch of different particles. Well, it's cycling through that sub UV image, and it's generating all that for us. And now there's one little final thing that we need to do, and that's we need to come into a rotation rate and go initial rotation. And for the minimum value, we just need to set this to a 0.1. And now we're getting, you see a spin in our particles here. And I'm going to come back up to our spawn and I'm going to set this to 25. That way we're getting a little bit more particles. Now I want to adjust this lifetime, because this lifetime is, well, it's not working out for me. They're lasting too long. That's looking a little, kind of a little bad up there. So what we're going to do is we're going to set our minimum of 0.355 and our maximum life of the particle to 0.75. Now let's increase this to 0.85 and see how that looks. Increase this to 0.45. There we go. I'm liking the looks of that a little bit better. And so that'll pretty much end our creation for this particular fire emitter right now. The next thing I want to talk about is creating the heat wave. Actually, before we do this, we need to right click on this particle emitter here and go to rename emitter. We're going to call it fire. Then we're going to right click on this material and go to emitter, duplicate emitter, because our heat wave actually uses a similar pattern here. So we want to come into texture, actually material, and grab our heat wave material here. And actually I'm going to go ahead and do a quick save. So grabbing our heat wave material here, and then I'm going to rename this to heat wave. I'll come into required and apply the heat material to it. Now you can already see what it's doing. It's already creating a little bit of a blur back here. That's exactly what we want. But we do need to adjust a few of its settings. If we come into required, we notice it's still set up by 4x4, and we need to switch it back to 2x2. And if we come up here and slide this up, so kind of see how high this heat wave is going. I'm actually going to come into lifetime here and increase the max time by 0.9. That way the heat wave is going a little bit higher than our particles, or our fire. And I'll move this back down. And that's all we need to do for our heat wave material. Next we're going to create the embers material. And this one's really easy to do. I'm going to right click in here and go new particle, sprite emitter. Come back into our materials here and make sure you grab your embers material, and we apply it here. And already we can see we got some crazy stuff going on here. We want to come into our spawn here, and we only need 5 of these. We don't need that many of them at a time. And under our lifetime, we're going to switch the min to 0.5, and our maximum will go to 1.2. And we do need to control our initial size, because these are rather large. And I'm going to set my max to 5 here. And we're going to set the minimum to 3. So now as you can see, we're just getting a little bit of embers in here. Actually, I'm going to increase this to 4 and these to 6. There we are. And so now we need to come into here to our initial velocity, and we should be alright. Let's see, the default will actually work for this 10, 10, 10, 100. The last thing we do need to do is come in here and add an orbit. By default it's kind of looks like fireflies or something, so we need to come in here and adjust these settings just a little bit. If we look under this offset here, right now it's set to 50. I'm going to bring this down to 20 so they're not orbiting as far. Now we're kind of getting more of that ember look coming off the fire here. And then also, if we come look in our rotation, I'm going to set my X to a -1 and my Z to a -1. Right, and there we go. That is the ember effect that I was looking for. Now the next thing we're going to do here to finish this off is create our smoke material. And so we got our smoke material here. If we come in here and right click and do new particle system, you'll see it already adds it to it. It looks alright by default, but we will need to control a lot of this. So the first thing I want to do is come under spawn, and I'm going to drop this down to a spawn rate of 15. And under lifetime, I'm going to come in here and set the minimum of 0.25 and a maximum of 0.45. So now you can see we got quite a bit of travel on our smoke there. Actually, I think I'm going to decrease this to or I'm just going to decrease this to 3. See how that looks? That looks good. So next we're going to add in a size by life. And it's going to need a few values adjusted here. Right now it's got 2 points. We do need to come in here and add 1 more point. Before we do that, we're going to adjust these settings here a little bit. By default, we want to switch all these to 0 for our first value here. And our second value, we're going to switch to 0.35. And all their out values, we're going to set these up to 2.5. That way we're getting bigger puff of smoke. And then now our third value we're going to add in here. We're going to set it to a 1. And then all of its values we're going to switch to an 8. It's going to look a little weird right now. It's kind of doing some funky things, but we will fix that later. Let me just double check my numbers here. Just looks like it's doing some weird things, but I think it's okay. So now we're going to come in here and come into rotation and go initial rotation. And we're going to set our minimum to -0.2 and a maximum of 0.2. And next we're going to add an initial color. So come in here and go to color, initial color, and if we come up here and we turn on something other than this here, we'll notice it kind of just the smoke kind of just pops out really weird. And we just need to make a slight adjustment to that. And right now it's set to a constant, but we need to come up here and switch this to a constant vector curve. So, wait, we don't want a constant curve. Where is it? There we go, constant curve. And we need to add 2 points. And our first, we'll leave it at 0, 0, 0, 0 all the way across the board. That's just fine. And our second one, we're going to switch to a 1. And we're going to come in here and set it to 0.5 all the way across the board for the out values here. And then we want to look under our alpha here, and that's set to 1. So that's just fine. And next we want to come in here and adjust a color scale over life. So come in here and add color, scale color over life. And looking at our first 2 points, this one's fine. This one, however, we need to switch to a 0, 0, and 0. And so now you see how they're fading out a little bit more smoothly. The next thing we need to do is come in here and look at our alpha over life, and we actually need to switch this type to a constant curve so that we can add 2 points. Our first point, our out val needs to be set to 1. The second point, our in val needs to be set to 1. And this is all just to transition the smoke a little bit easier. So now we need to make some little adjustments to the smoke's velocity a little bit. So we come back into our initial velocity. Right now we have 10, 10, 10, negative 10. We actually need to set these up to 30 and 30. So our smoke's traveling up a little bit more. And then this needs to be set to a negative 30 to match. Okay? And next, so we get this weirdness of these particles popping right here. We can fix this by adding in a location cylinder. And then we'll come in here to this cylinder, decrease it to 5 for its start, and then we'll push this up higher. Let's see. So set this to about 5.2. Why is it? Hold on. Make a quick adjustment here. Oh, that did not like that. So our lifetime here, need to bring that up a little bit. There we go. Bring our lifetime up to 2, fix that weirdness we had going there. So now I'm going to go ahead and close this down, and I'll save this package. And now we'll come back into it real quick. We'll zoom in on our fire here and hit this little camera button. Go ahead and close that back down, and now we got a little preview of our particle here. So now if I click on our particle and drag it into our level, now we come in here and look at it. Actually, I'm going to move it into this darker area so we can see it a little bit better. And there we are. We got our fire particle. And if you want to make it bigger, click on this value here, or just click on the emitter, and set it up to something like 5. There we go. Go into game mode. And now we have a nice burning fire effect, and if we look at the edge of this, we'll notice it starts, you can see the heat shimmer messing with the box there, causing the distortion. And that will conclude this video. Thanks for watching.